What is up, FBG fam? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. So in today's video, I wanted to take the opportunity to address some of the concerns that the community has on the Raiden Shogun. Now, I've done this already in a stream, but I wanted to make sure that I go more into detail and make sure I clear up any confusions that there might be, because I believe that's what it is. I believe there's confusion on the Raiden Shogun. I think there might be some misconceptions, and I think there is a narrative that's being spun that probably shouldn't be. It's not just specific to the Raiden Shogun herself. This happened with other characters in the past, whether it be Xingqiu, Bennett, even Zhongli had this happen to him. And I think it's something that happens when there's a very highly anticipated character to come out, or if the community doesn't give the character enough time to develop and to really be able to unlock their full potential. But initially I wasn't going to speak about this because for me, I believe everybody's entitled to their own opinions. I believe everybody is entitled to think about a character however they want to. But there are some things that I think need some clearing up, and I wanted to go ahead and address it because I wouldn't feel right overlooking these things and not speaking about them, at least on this channel. So that way, if you come to this channel, you see this video, you have a full understanding of where I'm coming from and maybe a better outlook on the Raiden Shogun, or think differently than you were before. So hopefully this video helps and hopefully you enjoy. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. The first thing I did want to go ahead and just quickly show is where my Raiden Shogun is right now, so you have a better understanding of where I'm coming from. So I do have my Raiden Shogun level 90. Here are her stats, and you can see what I have on her right now in terms of those stats in detail. I do have the Engulfing Lightning at Refinement Rank 1. I do have the full 4-piece emblem set on her currently, and I do have her unlocked at C2. Now, I have tested her thoroughly at C0/C1, so I do have a really good understanding of C0 also. I just recently unlocked the C2 not too long ago, and here are my talents as of right now. So the first thing I did want to go ahead and speak about when it comes to the Raiden Shogun is with Beidou. I think that's one of the biggest concerns as of right now within the community, is her compatibility with Beidou, and more specifically for Beidou's ult. So if we go over to Beidou, and she's way down here on the list for me. So we go over to Beidou. One of the pressing issues and one of the things that the community has been harping on is that in the beta, with Beidou and the Raiden Shogun, whenever you did Beidou's ult, the chain attacks worked with the Raiden Shogun's ult, and you were able to use them together, and they worked out really well, and apparently it was a very strong combination. Now, the first thing I want to go ahead and preface it by stating really quickly is that I think this is all just semantics. I think that it should work, in my opinion, and I think it's just due to wording the reason why it doesn't, and because of that reason, because of semantics, I think it should work, and I would love for it to work. So I want to get that out of the way right off the bat. But the reason why it doesn't work, and I explained this on stream, but I'll explain it again. The reason why it doesn't work is because it says, and you have to be, it's real specific, and that's why I say it's semantics. It says when normal and charge attacks hit, it's on hit, so it's the act of actually hitting an enemy with a normal and charge attack. The reason why this doesn't work with the Raiden Shogun is because if we go to the Raiden Shogun's ult, what happens is that when you pop her ult, then her normal charge and plunging attack damage is then considered elemental burst damage. The way that I was able to explain this the best that I know how to have it be clearly understood is that when you pop the elemental burst, you press the Q for the Raiden Shogun. Every time you're doing a normal charge or plunging attack, it's as if you're pressing that Q button over and over and over. It's no longer normal attacks. It is now elemental burst every single time. So it's as if you're elemental bursting and you're pressing the Q over and over and over when you're hitting an enemy while you're in the elemental burst for the Musu Ishin. So it's no longer considered normal and charge attacks. So that is the main reason why it doesn't work with Beidou, and it's just wording. It's simple wording. Now people say, well, what about with Xingqiu? It works with Xingqiu. So the way I was able to go ahead and explain that, just in case you are not aware, where is my Xingqiu? So the reason why it works with Xingqiu's elemental burst is because when you do the normal attack animation is when the swords come out. So it's during the animation of the attack, and so it doesn't matter if you're hitting an enemy or not. You can do, and I luckily have his ult ready, so let me go ahead and pop his elemental burst. I have the swords, and as you can see, I could be hitting dead air, I could be hitting nothing, and the swords are going to come out no matter what. So it's the animation of the normal attacks, it's the animation of swinging your weapon that triggers the rain swords to come out. That's not how it works with Beidou. With Beidou's, it has to be on hit, and it has to register as a normal or charge attack hit. And when you're in the elemental burst for the Raiden Shogun, it's no longer normal or charge attacks, it's now elemental burst. You're pressing the Q button instead of pressing, for me on the PlayStation, it's the circle button. You're pressing the triangle button each and every time. That's the best way that I can get, clarity on the difference between the two. So that is the reason why. Now, once again, I think it's just a play on words. I think it's semantics, and I think that it, in my opinion, should work. But the reason why it doesn't is because of that wording, and it could be because in the beta they found that that combination of Beidou and the Raiden Shogun might have been an extremely strong combination, maybe too strong in the sense that it was, probably demolishing and wrecking things, and they went ahead and patched it up. Or in the beta, they didn't take into consideration the wording, and they allowed it to work, and then realized the wording of both Beidou's ult and the Raiden Shogun's ult, and realized, hey, this actually shouldn't be working, so we got to patch this. Now, people had the preconceived knowledge and notion of knowing that it worked in the beta, and then they expected it to work on official release, and that is where you run into issues. You can't take what happens in beta and then think that's going to be what it is on official release. You have to take what's happening in beta, especially if you're looking at leaks and you're anticipating things. You have to take everything with a grain of salt. You have to have the understanding of knowing that this is working in beta, but when it officially releases, it could be changed or it could be different. So if you had the mindset of pulling the Raiden Shogun solely for the purpose to work with Beidou, then you pulled the Raiden Shogun for the wrong reasons. If you pulled the Raiden Shogun for the sole purpose of having her paired with Beidou and for no other reason outside of that, because you really wanted Beidou and the Raiden Shogun to work together, and you heard how OP that combination is, and you pulled the Raiden Shogun solely for that reason, you pulled the Raiden Shogun for the wrong reasons. You obtained this character for the wrong reasons. And that's not the mentality that you should have had when pulling the Raiden Shogun. You should have had the mentality of pulling the Raiden Shogun because you like this character, you enjoy this character, and you really want the character because of what she brings to the table, what she brings in terms of damage and utility and versatility and how she works on teams. Now, with that also being said, because the elemental bursts don't work together with the Raiden Shogun and with Beidou, that doesn't mean that they can't work on the same team together. I understand it's not the same OP combination that you wanted it to be, but they can still be on the same team and still work out perfectly fine. It's just not going to be that meta-defining OP combination synergy that you were looking for. But that doesn't mean that they can't still be ran together, and you can still utilize them. So that is the first thing that I wanted to go ahead and mention, and I kind of cleared up the Xingqiu thing as well during that rant also. Now, the other thing that I did want to go ahead and talk about is the Raiden Shogun herself, and the narrative and the mentality of people comparing her to other characters that have been in the game, that you've been able to hyper invest in, and that you probably have fully maxed out. So in my last video, I showcased the Raiden Shogun at C2 and the damage that she's capable of, which I think where I have her at right now is pretty impressive in my opinion. But I got some comments, and I've been getting these comments, that for what she's doing, and for the type of character she is, that's not good damage and she's not that great. And then they start comparing her to characters like Zhongli. They start comparing her to characters like Eula, Ganyu, Hu Tao, Xiao, or Tartaglia even as another example, or Ayaka. And the thing that I always counter with those rebuttals is that, can those characters do what the Raiden Shogun does in terms of the elemental burst damage and utility at the talent levels that she's at currently? So I was able to showcase her doing 212k damage to Mangu Genki, and then subsequent attacks afterwards within her elemental burst for 7 seconds of about 28k consistently, and then on top of the coordinated attacks doing about 4k per coordinated attack. Can another character output that much damage with their talent level at level 8? And, without optimal teams, I didn't show her on an optimal team with Bennett, Sucrose, all that good stuff. Didn't use any food potions or anything. And I'm wondering if those characters can do what she can do at level 8, where they're comparing her to characters that are probably triple crowned or have their elemental burst crowned or have it, you know, maxed out to their best capabilities. And so that is my argument to that, is that you're unfairly judging the Raiden Shogun up against characters that you fully invested in, that you had the time to invest in, and whose talents are probably maxed out if you really enjoy that character. You know, in terms of, like, for example, Diluc, a lot of comparisons to Diluc, who is a pure DPS, where the Raiden Shogun's not. She's more of a burst DPS. They're comparing her to Diluc, who you probably have that character really fully invested into. You had the time to fully invest into this character. We haven't had the opportunity to do that with the Raiden Shogun. We haven't had the opportunity to fully max out her talents and be able to unlock her full potential. And I think this is coming down to where individuals are unfairly judging her too early. And this isn't the first character that this happened to. This happened to Zhongli, this happened to Bennett when everybody thought Bennett was terrible. Happened to Xingqiu when nobody understood how good Xingqiu actually is. Same with Xiangling and others, that people judged them far too early and didn't give them the opportunity to be fully tested, to unlock their full potential and have them maxed out to see what they are capable of. And I think that's what's happening to the Raiden Shogun, because people are jumping the gun. You have to remember, she's been out for all of 3 days and people are already judging her, and we don't even have her maxed out. You guys have to take some time to let people fully max this character out to get a proper understanding of what she's capable of. And you can't compare her to other characters like Zhongli, like Venti, who we've had the opportunity to invest in, to max out, and to be able to really see what they're able to do, especially on many team comps. Which leads me to talk about the Raiden Shogun and her versatility, which is extremely good. She fits on just about any team comp that you want her to, because of her supporting capabilities in terms of, you know, providing energy back and things of that nature. While also outputting tremendous amount of damage. If you say the Raiden Shogun doesn't output good damage where she's currently at right now, then I'm sorry, but you're just mistaken. She outputs tremendous amount of damage for where she's at right now, where we're able to get her at. Now, in terms of her placement on teams, she fits on just about every single team comp. And the reason being is because of her ability to provide teams with energy back and be a great battery, to where you can have elemental bursts being spammed constantly. And that, I believe, is going to be more prevalent as we get more into the future of the game. I think having energy is going to be extremely important. The thing is that what she does is extremely well, but you're trying to compare her to other characters, other supporting characters like Bennett and Xingqiu. She's never going to live up to those guys' capabilities of supporting, but it's in a different manner, right? It's in a different, they're supporting in a different way than a Raiden Shogun. It's not an accurate comparison. Or even with like Kazuha. Are these characters, from a supporting aspect, can you put these characters on teams and the team be maybe a little more optimal? Yeah, but they're not going to be able to output the damage that the Raiden Shogun can. And they're not going to be able to support the team in terms of coordinated attacks and energy back like the Raiden Shogun can. Now, that is where she fits on teams, and you have to also understand that in this game, being the most optimal and having the most optimal rotation, team comps, weapons, and all of that is honestly not even necessary in this game. Literally can clear everything with the Raiden Shogun where she's at right now without any issues. I was doing that when she was at C0, which also leads me to say that she is free to play friendly in my opinion. You don't have to have constellations for her to be an extremely good character. The constellation just unlocks the amount of damage that she can do and just really boosts those numbers up. But her at C0 is perfectly fine and she performs very well. But you don't have to be extremely optimal in this game to be able to clear content. And so with that being said, she fits on every team and she's very versatile in that aspect as well. Now, does the Electro element itself need a buff? I mean, it could use one and I would be open to it. I wouldn't be opposed to it. It's something that definitely can be looked into and definitely something that maybe should be implemented. It doesn't have to be an OP buff. It could be just maybe a slight buff and that works out perfectly fine. but the Raiden Shogun herself does not need a buff, in my opinion. I think she's a phenomenal character. I think she outputs tremendous amount of damage. I think she supports the team the way she's supposed to be, and I think she's going to be more appreciated in the future when people get a better understanding of this character, when we're able to unlock her full potential, and when maybe future content comes out to where having a character that can supply as much energy back that she can is going to be, you know, extremely prevalent and something that you would want to have. I think she's just in the same boat like Zhongli is, like Bennett was, like Xingqiu was, where you know, in the beginning she's very underappreciated and people don't fully understand what she's doing or what she's capable of, but in the future they'll have that understanding and they'll realize, wow, this character is actually pretty damn good. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to go ahead and just provide this video because I think it was something that, at least for me, needed to be said. Something that I just wanted to go ahead and address, and hopefully with what I stated gave you a different outlook on this character, gave you a better understanding or clarity on this character, or maybe had you think differently about this character in a sense. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below your opinions. And once again, I just wanted to provide information that is different than what has been just spewing out there and have you think differently. Do I think that Beidou, so just to reiterate, do I think Beidou and the Raiden Shogun should work in the way that they're supposed to? I think they should. I think it's just a play on words and semantics, and I think that it could. I understand the reason why it doesn't, but I think it could, and that could be a switch that I would welcome. Does the Electro element needs a buff? I think it could use a slight buff. I don't think it needs to be anything over the top, but I think it could use a slight buff. And is the Raiden Shogun a good character? She's a tremendously good character, and I think she's underappreciated right now and not fully understood. And I think as time goes on, people will appreciate this character more and more and really understand how good she is in time. So anyways, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you guys so much for everything that you do here on the channel. And I know this was a bit of a lengthier video, so I do apologize, but it needed to be said. Have a fantastic day. Remember to stand out, be different, have fun, go further beyond in everything that you do. And until next time, my boys, until next time, it's your homie Cody GT, and I'm out. Bye, guys.